It is now time to experience the buzz, a podcast that takes an inside look at amazing people doing amazing things. Get ready for some great conversation that will be fascinating, educational, and inspiring. We will also leave room to help small businesses in a big way. Now, here's your host, entrepreneur Steve Buzzard.
Hello, everyone, and welcome in. It is Experience the Buzz, and I'm your host, Steve Buzzard. So excited to be with you. Today's guest is Taylor Avakian. That's right. He is a multifamily broker down in Southern California. He's only 28 years of age, and believe it or not, at one time, I was coaching him in baseball and basketball as a young kid. That's right. So he's grown up. He's doing some great things. And boy, is this going to be a great podcast because he has so much wisdom to deliver. That's right. At 28 years of age, a lot is going to be on the plate. As you know, this is a podcast about entrepreneurs, and Taylor embraces that. It is like in his DNA, and I'm so excited for you to hear his story and what he has been able to do along the way to put him in the spot that he is currently in. He's done a lot, and he's very successful at what he does, and we're going to let that unfold right before our eyes and ears today. Before we get into our podcast and our story today, I want to say thank you. I want to thank you for being a part of our community here at Experience the Buzz. You can subscribe. It's very simple, and what that does is it just alerts you to brand new material. We're trying to stay on a path of releasing new material on a bi-weekly basis, and so that will just put you in tune for new stuff that is coming your way. We're closing in on 150 episodes of Experience the Buzz. On the YouTube channel, we are under Buzzard TV. We have a couple of other arms that I am exploring, one being another podcast called Let's Talk Weddings. As you may or may not know, I'm a wedding DJ, so exploring that space and have a lot of fun with that. We've got 6 episodes in the can for that. And then, of course, my heavy metal song reactions. I love the heavy metal, and we're having a lot of fun with that. Well over 150 videos there. And so a lot within the Buzzard TV universe. And again, that is the beauty of the podcast world, is it really has reignited my love for broadcasting, which I did coming out of college. So a lot of fun to be had, a conversation coming your way that I know you're going to love, you're going to enjoy. Again, it's Taylor Avakian right here on Experience the Buzz. Enjoy the conversation. All right, everybody, welcome in. It is another edition of Experience the Buzz. My name is Steve Buzzard, and I am so honored and very happy to have Taylor Avakian on. And now he's an adult, and this is one of those success stories where I've known this guy for a very long time. That's right. I was his coach, I was his teacher, and now he's doing big things in SoCal. Taylor, how are you?
I'm wonderful, Steve. I'm so happy to be on this right now. You don't even understand. Like, this is deja vu. Like, this weird, I remember 8th grade basketball, 7th grade basketball, like, us running drills and us doing layup lines. And like, this is an incredible moment. So thank you so much for having me on here.
Absolutely. And let's go ahead and start with that. That's usually how I start, like, all of my episodes, is the connection, right? Like, we're going to dive into what you're doing, which are big things in Southern California. But let's talk about the connection. I'll let you share it with the audience.
Yeah, of course. So we grew up, I'm from Sacramento, Northern California, where Steve is and located. And so growing up, Toph and I, and we played sports together. Yep. And so I think what was the first, it was Mariemont. Toph was the afternoon preschool, and I was the morning preschool. And so we were the same school, but we didn't overlap or anything. And I think once we became like first grade or whatever, kindergarten, whatever's after that, we started kind of hanging out and playing sports together, and then it just snowballed. You lived right around the corner, so we'd always go back to your place to go, shoot hoops or jump on the trampoline or something like that. And then over the years, we just, playing sports together, so always in the same teams. And then you were coaching us for sports, and then you were the athletic director at St. Michael's, where I went to school. And so it was just like this growing up, and you saw all of us, change from when we were 4 years old to where we are today, which is just, can't believe I'm 28, Steve.
I absolutely insane. And obviously I know the number based on Toph just recently turning 29, which is so hard to believe, with a grandchild and now a second one on the way. It's like, it's crazy, this stage of life. And so, we'll dive back into the fun times and stuff, because there's so many great moments, especially within baseball and basketball. And I definitely want to hit that. But the reason we are here is because of what you're doing. And I truly feel that you represent what an entrepreneur is all about, although you are in a space that, yeah, could be 9 to 5, but you're pretty much on call. Why don't you describe for people what you are doing currently these days?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm a commercial real estate broker down here in Los Angeles in Southern California. So what I do is I help investors make money with apartment buildings. So basically think of me as like a real estate agent for big multifamily investment properties. So we're constantly communicating, helping people list properties for sale, helping people buy properties for sale. And commercial real estate is one of those industries you've always kind of like heard of, and you've seen the buildings and maybe had to deal with leases or dealt with it in the past, but it's not spoken about. It's not as productized, I guess, as residential real estate. And so it was something that I fell into and moved down here to Southern California in 2018 and have been doing it ever since. So I sell multifamily properties in Los Angeles.
So it's funny, right away I think of like $1 million listing, right? That's like exactly what comes to mind and stuff. And so just the tagline into that, you said you fell into it. And I am curious about where that all came from, if it started up here in NorCal, and then as you moved down to SoCal, kind of give us that transition.
Yeah, it did. It definitely started in Sacramento. So I remember growing up during sports, playing sports. A couple of the parents who were had kids who, my friends' parents were in commercial real estate, and I kind of saw like, they had a nice house, or they had really good snacks at their place, or they had a second house in Tahoe, or whatever it was, a really nice, I don't know, car. And I was like, that'd be cool if I had that. That'd be fun. As a kid, you just see flashy stuff, and that's what you're like, I want that. And so I remember when I got to an age where I understood a little bit more about businesses and how people made money, I think I asked one of them, like, hey, what do you do? And they said, oh, well, I own and operate commercial real estate. I develop apartment buildings. And so I was always like, wow, that's really cool. How do you develop apartment buildings? And so they kind of walked me through it and talked me through it. And so I remember at that moment, I was like, I want to develop apartment buildings. And I told him that. And he's like, hey, look, fantastic goal. Really great. Like, proud of you. And I think you can do it. However, it is very difficult to jump in as your first job of being an apartment developer. There's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of money and capital that you need, a lot of education. You can't just go and build these multi-million-dollar properties from scratch. Well, you can, but it's quite difficult. And so he said, hey, why don't you go be a broker, or potentially look into brokerage, because that's what I did. That's how I started out. And I got to meet a ton of people. I learned the business from the bottom up, made relationships. And at that point, after you've done that, if you feel like you want to start developing because you've made all those connections, then go ahead and do it. And so I remember this was in high school. And when I was thinking about where I wanted to go to school, which ended up being the University of Alabama, I didn't know what I wanted to study, but I knew real estate was like a possibility after school. So I decided to get a finance degree and then a real estate specialization, which is kind of like a minor at Alabama. And so that was my like backup plan, figuring it out. Like if after school I don't know what I want to do, I'm going to go try real estate. And so once I graduated school, I actually moved back to Sacramento for 6 months. I was doing personal training. During the time I couldn't kick the athletic bug, I didn't play sports in college, but I got into CrossFit. So I wanted to be a professional CrossFit athlete. So I was working out like 4, 5, 6 hours a day, just super intense, wanting to do this thing. And so I moved back to Sacramento, and I was coaching like fitness classes at the same time, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And 6 months came, and my mom was like, hey, you need to actually go. Like get a real job, like stop trying to figure this stuff out, because I was barely working part time.
Thanks, Erica.
And so I reached out to a couple of Sacramento brokers, family friends, like, hey, I'm looking to do this. anyone you can recommend. And so they suggested whatever you choose, whatever product you choose, you want to go live and be near that product. And so I wanted to always go and live near the beach. And so, rightfully so, or naturally, I ended up looking at San Diego and Los Angeles. And so I set up a bunch of interviews, drove down here from Sacramento, 7 hours, interviewed at a bunch of shops. And on my last interview, before I drove back up to Sacramento, I think this was on a Monday, I interviewed at the shop, my former brokerage, Matthews, and interview went really well. They emailed me the next day and said, hey, we want you to come down and work for us. Can you start in 2 weeks? So packed up all my stuff, drove down 2 weeks later. This is summer of 2018.
Wow.
And been doing brokerage ever since.
Okay, wow. So the part I love about that is the seed that was planted, right? Like, to be honest with you, I didn't really know about the real estate kind of desire that you had that was within high school. Like I said, we're family friends, but maybe I didn't do a good job of diving a little bit deeper about what you were going into, because there's an aspect of you that we all knew that when you went to the University of Alabama, something we'll talk about when we kind of get to the social media part, that really gave you a presence there. So it was like, that was the fun part of Taylor Avakian that we enjoyed. I knew about the CrossFit. That was definitely an evident thing, but did not know about the real estate. And I think there's something to be said for that, right? Of finding, when we talk about finding your passion, like you're just kind of going along your journey, but yet the seed is planted. But then it was about that action to make it happen. And yeah, maybe a kick in the butt from mom, but still you had the ability to take that action and then make the bold move, of which you went to SoCal. And I have to imagine that was a brave new world for you.
Yeah, it was interesting too, because I think, as young adults and in high school, and you kind of have this idea of what you want to do. It changes. Personally, for me in high school, I wanted to be a professional athlete. Like, that was my full-time drive. That is what I wanted to do. When plans change, you have to adapt and shift course. And so then it became the CrossFit. And then after CrossFit didn't work out, then it was like, okay, what do I want to do? What do I like to do? I like to be very entrepreneurial. I actually started a supplement business in college, and that we did that for a year, and that was a really cool learning experience of basically starting a business. We got these big 50-gallon drums of protein powder from, like, I don't know, New York or something like that, and we literally put hairnets on. We put plastic wrapper over our buddy's extra room that he had. We were I don't know if it was sanitary, like this, but we were literally like filling these bags. My buddy was ironing the bags. We ordered them from Alibaba. We got these labels, we stuck them on, and we went to CrossFit gyms and tried to sell this to these gyms and be like, hey, our product's really good, like, we like it. And so that was a really cool experience for me. So I think I got the entrepreneurial bug in college, and I really came out of my shell, because I would say naturally I'm more of a shy, as a kid, like more of a shy, reserved person. I think I can have my moments, and was very intense, very much like mission driven. And college really allowed me to explore different aspects of what I liked, what I didn't. Did I have this creative side that I didn't know that I even had and enjoyed? And so all of that to say, I think the real estate was a good combination of entrepreneurial and kind of that, you eat what you kill, kind of no ceiling limit that had always attracted me. And then also the uniqueness of the competition, which I'm just, competition is in my blood. And so it was the perfect timing combination. And then that seed planted early, where I think it was the perfect alignment.
Yeah, nobody competes like Taylor. Nobody. I mean, for the people that are listening out there, Taylor, the competitive spirit, and that's why he was on every single team that I coach. I told people, don't even think about drafting him, and I'm more relating that to baseball and stuff. But you are always on my squad for that reason. It's interesting that you two say, because I remember you were definitely more introverted as you were younger, and I think that's what was so fun to see when you went to Alabama and you had the YouTube channel and everything. It's like, wow, he is busting out, but you kind of always knew it was there. It was just, I think, fun to see it break out. And now to see where you're at now, it's like, oh man, this makes perfect sense to me.
And I have to say that what was really pushed me to continue to do those things. Because, you know, Alabama, I didn't really go with a bunch of people from my hometown. There was a few, but it was like I was isolated from all of my friends and family and everything, like, you know, 2,000 miles away. So I kind of didn't feel as much pressure. And I was nervous when I I guess we could talk about this, when I did the YouTube stuff, because I didn't know how it was going to be perceived from my family and friends. And to like my amazement, and it made me feel so good. It like you, Toph, like the whole family, a bunch of people that my friends, they were very supportive of me. They're like, dude, this is awesome. Like, keep doing it, keep pushing. We love it. It's hilarious. And that really, really gave me the confidence to continue doing that. So I have to say, like, my Sacktown proud, like, you guys really supported me in exploring that avenue. And I don't think if I would have got the amount of love that I did, that I would have done it for as long as I did, and pursued and continued to pursue it today, and the, you know, social media and everything like that.
Well, and that's the thing, as Taylor is kind of, you know, unloading this for us, you see what the journey is all about. Like, there's different pieces that take place along this path. And at 28, he's already done so much, but yet there's so much ahead of him. And let me break this down. So he multifamily broker with over $300 million in sales. Now, he's been in SoCal since 2018 and recently just joined the Lyon, Stahl Investment Real Estate as a first vice president. And this is in the West LA office in Century City. And it was great to go on the website, and I'm like, first vice president, maybe him and other. No, this is a big team. So it looks like this move is a pretty big one for you. Yes?
Yeah. It was actually partly why the entrepreneurial spirit kicked in for me. The firm that I'm at allowed me to build my own firm, however you want to see it, which is the Group CRE, which is kind of what all my branding and everything is behind, is that moniker. And it allowed me to kind of explore that entrepreneurial nature while also having the support from a firm, which is fantastic and very nice, but also the flexibility to kind of test things out. I'm very much a tester. Like, I want to try this method. I want to try this method. I want to, you know, see if this will allow me to produce more, to have more sales, connect with more people, things like that, reinvest in my business. So it was a big move. I was definitely scared, and there was a ton of fear behind it. But I think as I've learned growing up, and I still have a ton to learn, but everything on the other side of that fear, I've never had a decision where I 100% fully regret it. Like, I've always grown and learned something from that, whether it's a failure or a success or whatever it is. Like, there's something that I can learn and take, and I'm still here. Like, I didn't, you know, I'm alive. I'm happy, breathing, fantastic health, which is good. So it just, in that moment, it feels really scary. But every time you do that fearful thing, I've always felt like it was the best move for me.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is we have to embrace adversity, because yes, we would like everything to be great, but that is just not the case with anything that we do. Let's do a little reset. Taylor Avakian is with me here on Experience the Buzz. Very special edition, for the simple fact that I've watched this kid grow up. He's now a young adult, 28 years of age, doing great things in SoCal, and moved down to SoCal to really pursue this career that he is now in. 2018, I mean, that's only 6 years ago. And so let's rewind back to that, when you make that move, because when you take the leap, and now it's going to happen. Take me through those first days. Like, it could be waking up for your first day of work. It could be going out and purchasing your first suit, to what I'm very excited about is your first sale. Like, what was that like? These are things that kind of ignite everything else that's happening in your career.
Yeah, it was exciting. And when I look back on it, I can't believe I actually did what I did. So I'll give you a little picture. So I moved down here, like I said, 2 weeks. Hey, go find a place to live in Southern California in 2 weeks. It's very hard to find a place. So
imagine.
Yeah, what I ended up doing is I ended up finding a place, and I didn't have much money. And I was fortunate enough, my parents were like, all right, we'll help you out a little bit. Like, get your bearings. How long is it going to take you to get a sale? I don't know, like a couple months, you know, then you'll be fine. So I ended up finding a place in North Redondo Beach. It was a house with 8 bedrooms in it. with all individual adults, like from 55, 60 years old to like me, the youngest, 21. I think it was 21 when I moved in there. I just turned 22 like a couple weeks after. Literally living in this room, shared residency. I was paying $800 a month when and in Alabama I was paying $400 a month. So I was like, oh my gosh, it's crazy. And so I literally lived, I think I got a mattress shipped to my house, one of those bare mattresses. I didn't have a frame, so I put it on the floor. I didn't have any furniture. I just had those Costco yellow bin top things. I like used that as my side table. I remember the only utensils that I brought down was like one fork, one spoon, and a knife, and then my Vitamix blender that I had from college. And every night, my dinner was a shake, like 64 ounces of just protein powder, greens, like anything I could do, and because it was cheap for me to do, and it was probably maybe $3 or $4.
It's probably like the modern day version of Top Ramen, yes?
Exactly. Literally, yeah, the high protein Top Ramen, and I would just slam that thing. And to move on to like the first couple of weeks and such. So from the moment I started in the business, our CEO at the time came in and spoke to us, and he's like, "This is going to be one of the hardest experiences you've ever experienced. The people who dedicate themselves and work the hardest, those are the ones who are successful." He wrote out like this $1 million agent schedule. And I'm one of those guys where you tell me to run through a brick wall, and I think there's a chance I can get through the brick wall, like I'm going to run through the brick wall. And so I took that to an extreme. And so what also, and this tells you a little about myself, he's like, you're going to have to give up working out. You're going to have to give up fitness. Like, this is your life. And that was such a huge part of my life. I was like, F that. Like, okay, you're challenging me? You're challenging me. Okay, all right, let's do this. So, yeah, exactly. And so what I did was I would get up, and I can't even believe I did this. I would set my alarm at 3:50 a.m. in the morning. So I'd get up at 3:50. My gym was like right down the street from my office. So I'd drive maybe 4 or 5 minutes, get there at like 4 o'clock. It was a 24-hour fitness, so it was open all the time. I'd work out from 4 to like 4:30, 4:45. So quick workout, just constant movement. Get in the office by like 5. And there was one other agent in there. His name was Keegan Mulcahy. And I love this about Keegan because we both started like battling for who could get in the office sooner. And I remember, I think maybe initially my alarm was like 4:15, and then I would finish the gym and he'd be in there. And so I was like, all right, let me put it back 10 minutes. And then I'd beat him in. And then the next day he'd come in a little bit earlier. And so we had this flip flop, and I don't know if it was the healthiest, but it was a great competition and made it exciting. But I from that first year, I literally worked from 5 in the morning until 8 p.m. at night every day. Weekends, I was there from 8 in the morning till 5, 6 p.m. at night. Saturday, Sunday, it was just a grind. And it was this weird feeling of wanting to be that $1 million agent, wanting to prove myself that I could do it. And also just this culmination of like, I'm in a new place. Let me prove myself. Let me experience this to the fullest, and let me see what I can make of what is possible for me. I didn't want to leave anything to chance and what I could make possible. Now, going into the money aspect of it, right? So there's no salary, no draw, nothing. You're just zero paychecks coming in. When I first started, I was making 500-600 cold calls a week, just like constant, every day, all week, like a machine. And there were other agents who were doing different product types that had some success a little bit earlier than me. And I remember it was like August, nothing. September, nothing. October, November, December, January. I think in January of the following year, so 6 months of me being in the business, making zero money, zero listings, nothing, right? I got a listing appointment. And so we went on that listing appointment, and it was my first like really good lead. Went on it. She came in the office. We pitched the deal. Our CEO at the time was in our office, so he came and pitched, and it was just like I sat back and didn't say a word, but it was incredible. And I was like, oh my gosh. We ended up winning that listing. However, these sales take a long time. And so from that initial listing, so it took me 6 months to get my first listing. It took another 6 months to close and get a paycheck from that deal. And so it was a genuine full 12 months before I saw any money from that. And remind you, I was working 100 hours a week. Right. So it was just like this battle of my mind of like, keep going, keep doing it. It's going to happen, right? Just believe, trust the process, keep doing it. And I look back on that time with almost admiration for what I was able to do, and just like you always during it, it's like, this is hell. Also a little bit exciting, but also like, this sucks. But looking back on it, I really have fond memories of that with my buddies, and we're all in this together. We're all getting in early, staying late. Like, it was just a good atmosphere, and I could not have done it without that atmosphere. I know for a fact. I'm very grateful for that experience. But from 0 to 12 months was literally like one hell of a story.
Yeah. And what you just described there is the grind, because one thing that never goes away, things change, processes change, the hard work never goes away, especially in the beginning. And I think it's very important, even as a 28-year-old, that you are sharing that there's no shortcut around that. And if you don't mind, are you able to share what that first check was, what that amount was?
Yeah. So it was for $50,000.
All right.
Yeah, thank you. So I got, again, this isn't typical, but it just happened to be that way. The first deal that I listed of an apartment building was $9.4 million. Wow. Which is like, that's not standard. Like, typically you start in the 2 to 4 units, a couple $1 million. The first one was 9.4. And so that, I think the total commission of that was like 2% or something like that. So it was like $200,000, and then I got 25% of that. So it ended up being $50,000. And I remember seeing that check of like $50,000 and being like, oh my gosh, I found it. Yeah. Like, I think I can do this. Like, I think I can be successful at this job. And 3 more months by, nothing happens, but it slowly started to pick up, and I started doing these deals. And then I was very fortunate. The next deal was like 10 million, 12 million, 13. I had these really big pops, which felt like it was just this culmination of all that work for 12, 18 months, and it finally paying off. And that was what I needed at that time to know, okay, I can do this. I'm skilled. Like, this is what I'm meant to be doing right now in my life. And it really, really was like a incredible experience to think back on. And I enjoyed every moment of it.
Yeah, I love the fact that you did not give up. But that also, knowing you, that doesn't surprise me. And so being able to see that check, I think there's something very special about that. It's interesting you mentioned that kind of that war room thing. If I'm correct, were you doing videos with the war room and the guys? I feel like I remember some, because I was still following you and what you were doing and stuff. Am I correct on that, or am I missing something?
So probably on Instagram. I remember that I was doing Instagram stories and stuff like that. The first, we didn't get into this, but I filmed a bunch of YouTube videos in college. Like, that was kind of my creative outlet. And when I started in the business, I kind of had to stop that. And so I still had this little bit of creative bug, and like, it's hard to give that up when you had spent so much time over the last 3 years building that. And so I think I did start doing the stories for that, and eventually culminated into kind of what I'm doing now with the podcast and everything like that. So, but yeah, I remember those stories, and it's just, we had some wild experiences with a bunch of young 20-year-old dudes and ladies, and just like, it was basically a frat house transferred over into a working environment. But we were getting after it. We weren't just jacking around, like, we were actually working, which made it that much more fun and enjoyable.
Yeah, and what about the environment in terms of the hunger that you have so many people doing the same thing, like the competition level? Like, you were competing with one guy in terms of how early you got in, but in the overall aspect of thing, is there a respect? Is it a kind of a dog eat dog kind of world? Maybe kind of share that with us, because I know it's different in different industries. Yeah,
no, it could definitely be a doggy world in different shops, and in real estate in general. It is kind of like, it feels sometimes like a zero-sum game, and that's how I almost thought about it with other agents outside of my office. However, there was this kind of like, we're in this together, we're a family atmosphere at my company where we were just trying to encourage each other. And again, like, I'm going to use someone else doing better than me as fuel because that's just who I am. And it helped me push through some of the tough times and wanting to prove myself. But it was never it was never a bad internal environment where we felt like we had to be, I was never upset when someone would do well. I was happy for them, and I'm like, all right, like, let's go, Taylor, like, let's prove yourself. Like, you gotta be this guy or not. So it was a good motivation, and it was really a good environment.
That's awesome. And how long before your initial days or years with your first job that you moved to the Group CRE.com? And by the way, CRE, if you haven't figured it out, stands for commercial real estate. But talk about that, because that's an entrepreneur move to say, okay, I'm learning things, but now I can kind of branch off and kind of build my own thing within this.
Yeah. So the Group CRE started January of 2024, so the beginning of this year. So it's a recent, 8 months, I guess you could say. Yeah. And so I had worked at Matthews from 2018 until January of this year. Okay. And it was I had learned a lot. I had a ton of skills, incredible relationships, enjoyed every moment of my time at Matthews in the previous firm. It was just at a point where I felt like I wanted to go and explore and push myself and see what I could do. Because I had these visions, and again, the entrepreneur in me wanted to try a bunch of different things, because I was like, well, if I market this way, or if I do social media this way, or if I can, have this sort of follow-up system in place, like, I think it could produce better results. So it was one of wanting to push the envelope of trying something new and having the flexibility of being able to do that I think culminated in me wanting to start the Group CRE and start my own thing and bring on employees and things like that. And so it's been very, very challenging, don't get me wrong, but it's been extremely rewarding as well. And I've learned so much. Like, every time I do something new and take a leap of faith or try coaching, or whether it's, hiring an employee, whatever, I always learn so much about myself and what I can do to be a better entrepreneur, leader, investor, real estate agent, whatever it is. Like, I always improve. And so that, to me, that sign of like, I feel like I need to do this. I'm still learning, but I feel like I can have enough of confidence knowing that I've been able to do it in the past, where when I start to feel that, I'm like, okay, I think I need to take the leap of faith. And the January of this year was one of those moments.
It's nice. And you mentioned being a leader. That's kind of the next level, right? You grind for the 6 years, you have success, and then you figure out, hey, okay, maybe now I can make a team and help pour into them. And that's the beauty. Like, I just see the trajectory that you're on. Do you love SoCal? I mean, you're a NorCal guy. What that's always an argument, because I went to USC for 4 years, and I honestly can say I could not wait to get back to Sacramento, but I know it's different for other people. How about you? Like, how do you like SoCal?
Yeah, there's definitely pros and cons. I miss space. I miss trees. I miss, going down to the river and having more of this suburban atmosphere. Like, I'm definitely a suburban kind of guy. That's my vibe. And so I think it's been one of, I really enjoy being around a bunch of people and having a bunch of friends very close by, and we can go to this restaurant. Like, I'm going to a restaurant tonight with some friends for dinner, and it's 5 minutes from my house, which is great. And there's a lot of things that are going on down here in SoCal, which is very, very great. And the beach is here too, which is a plus. And then there's these moments where all I want to do is just go in nature and the trees, and it's a little bit harder to do that here in SoCal. So I would say I enjoy it thoroughly. If there was a good combination of Sacramento and SoCal in like one area, I'd probably thrive there. And I think maybe eventually one day San Diego becomes that for me, or once I can crush it out of the park in the real estate stuff. If I buy a house in the Palisades or one of these little neighborhoods that is super fancy, but kind of has that vibe. Yeah. I think that's the ultimate kind of thought process there. But I do, like, whenever I come back to Sacramento, it's just this, like, like I'm home, you know, and I haven't felt it anywhere else.
That's great, and that's why it's home. You know, it's got that special feeling to it. So before we go to break, you know, you mentioned the hours that you put in the initial days. What does it look like now, currently, where you're at? How has it changed for you?
You know, I wish it changed more, Steve. Is
it just in your blood?
It's like this, you know, this insatiable kind of obsession, and I wasn't. I don't know if I was this, like, obsessed with anything ever previously. Sports was definitely, you know, I loved it, but I would go to the cages and hit for a couple hours and I'd be done and I want to go, you know, do something else. Yeah. This job, real estate, and what I'm doing, I think about it all day long, every day. I think about how can I build a better mousetrap? How can I do my job better? And so in reality, my schedule hasn't changed a ton. I mean, I have more flexibility to be able to, you know, if I want to take off early or if I want to take a day off, I can do that. Like, I don't feel pressured to have to be 24/7 in the office. However, there's a piece inside of me, and I was not a Kobe Bryant fan growing up. I was not. Sacramento Kings, right? I did not like the Lakers. However, as I've grown older and been in Los Angeles and kind of been more exposed to Kobe and his story and who he was as a competitor and a person, like, I resonate so deeply with the passion that he brought to the game. And I feel like this business for me is what I'm meant to do. And I want to bring that same competitiveness and passion and obsession to this job, because I just feel like I look forward to doing the work that I do. It's not, people see me, they're like, well, you know, you work so hard. Like, you work too hard. You're working on the weekends. You work 7 days a week. You're doing this, you're doing that. I'm like, yeah, but I love it. Like, I enjoy the time. I'd rather be doing this than sitting down and watching a Netflix episode or whatever, right? Like, I genuinely enjoy working in the business. And so I think my schedule has not changed much in terms of my alarm's 4:35, workout. So I got about, 35, 40 minutes, get to the gym, try to get in the office by 6:30. And I'm leaving a little bit early, around like 6 to 7. So I got hour and a half, 2 hours back in my day.
Yep. That's great. Like you said, you, at least now, though, you do have that flexibility to say, if I want to take a day off, I could do so. You put yourself in that position. So, I mean, folks, as an entrepreneur, this is the beautiful thing, is that being an entrepreneur, yeah, it could mean you start your own business, but this is the aspect that I love, that you can have the entrepreneur spirit within something that is, well, I'll call it a 9 to 5, but, working for a company, and Taylor is really laying that out very well for us. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a break, say hello, and thank you to our sponsors. We got 3 amazing sponsors. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the social media aspect, because as Taylor alluded to, he's got experience in this, probably had to put it to the side to do what he's been doing the last 6 years. But what's cool is that Taylor Avakian, I knew at the University of Alabama, is reemerging. Yeah, he's even got a podcast that's coming, and we're going to talk all about that and the importance of that and how it works for him and how it can work for you as an entrepreneur. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more here on Experience the Buzz. All right, first half of the conversation with Taylor Avakian is in the books. Now time to thank our sponsors. We got 3 big ones for you. Want to thank MiKimos Barbecue, along with On-Call Personalized Urgent Care with Dr. Julie Allen, and Pit Boss Jerky. Starting with MiKimos Barbecue, it's my good friend and producer of this program, Michael Kenobi. That's right. Started it up in November of 2023. Actually featured Michael in an episode. You can check that out in the archives. It's episode number 129. Best way to find them on Instagram. That's MiKimos_barbecue, with barbecue being spelled out. Again, MiKimos is MiKimos_barbecue, BARBECUE. They cater for all types of events. In fact, a couple weddings I know of. Michael has done along with his father-in-law, and of course they host a lot of things like having to do with youth sports. Just contact them through the DM and Michael will take care of you. Also want to thank On Call Personalized Urgent Care with Dr. Julie Allen. They are actually brand new as a sponsor. I featured Julie in our latest episode number 137 here in the month of August, although we're turning the page to September. You can find Julie at personalizedurgentcare.com. Guess what? I'm a member. That's right. She takes care of me. She's like my on-call doctor. So for example, I had this cough that was going on. It's usually due to allergies. And she felt like maybe I should go a step further. So she actually ordered an x-ray for me. Just did that today. And so being able to have her kind of at the fingertips where I can text or call her, think about it. Save me an ER visit, right? If I just call her, do I really have to go to the ER, which has happened to me before, and I paid thousands of dollars for a visit where I found out I was okay. What about in-home testing, prescriptions, labs, imaging, which I talked about, school physicals? Dr. Julie Allen can provide that for you. So again, go to personalizedurgentcare.com, or you can call her directly or text her directly at 916-347-4468. Very excited to have Julie as one of our newest sponsors on the program. And of course, we'll finish out with Pit Boss Jerky, good friend Joe Green, who is featured way back in episode 26. Why? Well, because he's an original sponsor since day one. That episode dropped in April of 2021. 12 amazing flavors, but the best news is they are online at pitbossjerky.com. $9 per bag. We have a flavor named after this program called Buzz Experience. The next, if I were to give like a top 5, I love raspberry apple chipotle, island teriyaki. I'm big on the sweet summer and honey gold. Those are my top 5, but there are 12 amazing flavors, including ones like Big Heat and Little Heat. And now they also offer beef sticks. That's right, jerky beef sticks, priced at $6. All of this can be ordered online, once again, at pitbossjerky.com. So once again, a big thank you to our sponsors, MiKimos Barbecue, On Call Personalized Urgent Care, and Pit Boss Jerky. Now, let's get back to our conversation with Taylor Avakian.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss an episode of Experience the Buzz by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. It means everything. Now, back to the show.
All right, welcome back. We are speaking with Taylor Avakian. Yes, I was his coach, his teacher for many years as a young kid, but now he's 28 years old, doing great things in Southern California. Again, a multifamily broker with over $300 million in sales. He's got his own group called the Group CRE. They've got a website, thegroupcre.com. Just recently joined Lyon Stahl Investment Real Estate. That may not mean anything to you here in Sacramento, but it's a big deal in SoCal because he's the first vice president, part of a big team there. And we're just talking about his journey. And so right now, what I want to do is turn our attention to social media. And let's start with the University of Alabama. We kind of mentioned it there in the first half of our conversation. But for me, our family, and I know others, like you said in Sacramento, we had your back, right? Love the videos. Like there was something cool about it. Tell me how you came up with the idea and then how it grew into something much bigger than I think that you even could anticipate.
Yeah, for sure. So, Steve, I started a YouTube channel at the University of Alabama. And so initially, I think what spurred me wanting to do that was my entertainment at the time was YouTube. So like instead of turning on the TV or cable or Netflix or whatever, like YouTube was, I would just watch YouTube videos and I was super enthralled. And I started following these creators. And at first they were like fitness creators, right? These guys who had these gyms, and I was trying to look up, how to get all CrossFit-y and jacked and all that stuff. Like that was what I was following. And I saw what they were doing. And I remember seeing this creator, and he had started a clothing company at the time. And so he was using YouTube as a way to brand himself, and then he was selling his clothing to his audience. And like he was having a business there. And I was seeing he just opened this big, huge gym up. they were sharing some of their revenue numbers, and it was just like blowing my mind that someone on YouTube could make a living and actually a really thriving business from making YouTube videos. I had never, thought about that as a career path, especially one where I could work out and do, and do entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And so I think that was what initially spurred me to do it. So the first videos that I was making were like videos of me working out. So I'd film my workouts. I'd film, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Here's the training. And I kind of learned I would film them, and then I would learn how to edit. First it was on iMovie, and then I got Final Cut Pro, and then I learned how to do all the editing on Final Cut Pro. So and then I got a really good camera. And so it was just this kind of growth, of trying new things, experimenting with it, and figuring out what worked and what didn't, and also coming out of my shell and like trying to learn how to speak and learn how to actually convey emotions and tell a story and all those kind of things. So it was a really cool experience for me to start making those videos. Eventually it started merging, because I was watching some other creators, into like these comedy skit kind of videos. Yeah. And man, like, I can't believe I did some of the stuff that I did, but I'm
telling you, man, some classic stuff.
Oh my gosh, I know, and you can't find those. They're archived on the internet.
Yeah, sorry, people. I like when I was getting ready for this interview, Taylor, I'm like, okay, they got to be there, and I'm like, oh no, I'm like, okay, he's grown up, and it's not that they're not bad. It's not a bad thing. It was just they were fun, but it's not, like you said, it doesn't fit what you're kind of doing now, and that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. So it was really, really fun. It was really, really fun in the moment, and I learned a ton about, I think, being able to be more myself, like my authentic self, and actually try stuff because I had always been, again, like pretty shy and pretty reserved, kind of a introvert, and that allowed me to go be much more extroverted, and I enjoyed that side of me that I never really had let out before. And so I'm very grateful for that, because that allowed me to just be more authentically myself and not feel as much judgment from other people. And so that was the YouTube. So I think I started maybe sophomore year, and by the time I had graduated, I want to say there was like 300 videos that I had made.
Yeah,
like,
you did a lot.
I was cranking them out. Like, I was doing school, working out, and making these YouTube videos, and that was all I was doing. It
probably got to a point too, Taylor, like, you shoot your footage. I loved your style, not just you as the personality, but you had a unique style in which you shot the videos and the way you edited the videos. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. I took inspiration from, like, Casey Neistat was a big creator that I really loved, and I would look forward to his daily vlog every day, and I would just watch it consistently. And I took inspiration, and I'd be like, okay, let me try that shot. And then there were creators. Emma Chamberlain was one where I was like, this girl's blowing up. Like, she's doing all these funky edits and tricks, and I would take a little inspiration from that. And then these cinematic guys, I'd try to do some sort of cinematic sequence and see if slow motion, if that would look cool too. And then these, prankster YouTubers, like how did they film that? How did they do the microphone far away? Like, so I would take inspiration from a bunch of people, kind of amalgamate it into my own. And I remember I had never done any editing or any sort of really creative work at all. Like, I didn't draw, I didn't sing, I didn't do anything. The first time that I remember feeling like I was in a flow state when it wasn't athletics was when I was editing videos. I would spend 4, 5, 6 hours literally just like editing, trying to match the cuts to the beats, figuring out if I can make this transition a little bit more entertaining or engaging or some sort of something to make it more feel like those videos that I had watched from the creators that I enjoyed and loved. And that, I remember feeling like, whoa, like I looked up and I hadn't eaten in 6 hours, and it's dark outside, but that was a moment for me where I realized I had some sort of creative gene inside of me, or I really enjoyed the aspect of creating. And so I think that propelled me to continue to do it, because I loved the process.
Yeah, so I'm curious too, because whatever the number was, they were masterpieces. I know we always look forward to watching them.
Yeah.
Were you able to monetize off YouTube? A lot of people talk about that ability. Did you ever get to that point?
Yeah, so I was able to monetize. I think at the time when I started real estate. I was up to like 7,500 subscribers, and maybe I had 500,000 views or something like that on the channel. I had one video that kind of blew up and it wasn't a ton of money, right? But it was enough money where I was like, wow, like I think it was a few $1,000s I had made from YouTube. So it wasn't like which is why I had to go get a real job, because I wasn't making full money from that. But it was enough to know that it was possible, and it was something that could lead to entrepreneurship and revenue, and like it was a business. There was a business behind it, and I knew that when I started it, that it could be a business. My ultimate goal was not to make money from the views. It was to be able to take the viewership and have an audience that connected with me and liked what I did, and then create some sort of product or something that they would want to be a part of and ideally like enjoy, and create a business out of that. So it was never for the views, but I think the $1,000 I might have bought a new camera or microphone or something like that. So it was cool to see that first YouTube revenue check though.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like the one that you got when you got into this business, there's something, and that it's a reminder of the hard work put in. You kind of get a result, and it doesn't always have to be monetary, right? We're talking about the big picture here. So the reason why we set it up with that story is because here we are, fast forward to today, and Taylor has been in this, kind of 6 years of building a business and, establishing himself as a very successful, broker down in Southern California. And now I can see that the social media is coming back. It's interesting because you go to your Instagram, you only got 28 posts on there. I'm like, okay, he's building it up. And then you come up with this simple idea of using just the little cards and stuff. And I'm all, okay, here's Taylor. The creative juices are flowing. So take me into where you are now, because you hit them all. And the one I actually want to dive into after you kind of give us a description is LinkedIn, because LinkedIn, to me, I am still trying to figure out. Let's talk about the social media aspect and you bringing that back first.
Yeah, for sure. So it actually started with Twitter maybe 2 or 3 years ago. So I had joined, I took all social media off my phone. I didn't have any accounts. I like archived all my Instagram photos, archived all the YouTube photos. I was literally like, you couldn't find anything about me. And that was tough. But I was dedicated to this job. I remember maybe a year in, 2 years in, something like that, one of our managing directors said, hey, like, you got to start studying real estate or I was looking for news sources, and I asked him, I'm like, hey, I'm trying to learn more about what's going on in LA real estate and what's happening here and there. What are some good news sources? He gave me a couple websites, and at the bottom of that, he said Twitter. And I was like, Twitter? He's like, yeah, there's a lot of principals, a lot of owners of apartment buildings on this platform, and they just like talk about apartments and real estate, and there's this little community. And so a flashlight went off in my head, and I was like, social media, real estate, okay, let me check this out. So I started diving into Twitter and just started kind of commenting, posting, finding these people, and that slowly started growing. And it was kind of that addicting feeling that I got when I was starting to get the views again from the YouTube. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is wow. Like, I could leverage the audience on Twitter to get more real estate listings. Like, this could be my thing. And so I was able to grow that. And today I think I'm like 11,000 or something like that followers on Twitter. And naturally during that phase, I was like, all right, let me go to LinkedIn. Let me try the video stuff again. And at this point in time, in August of 2024, I have made the commitment and the switch to go fully into the social media again with the videos. And so I'm putting all the pieces together right now. I've filmed the first 2 episodes of a video podcast that I'm doing where I'm interviewing real estate principals and owners and investors. And I'm going to be trying to do a bunch of this repurposement and just getting back into the swing of things. I need a lot of team and help because I still have to do the real estate stuff. So yeah, that's been a little bit more challenging than me. I can't spend 6 hours editing anymore. So it's getting those little pieces together. But I've made the commitment and understanding that if I want to do this the way that I want to do it, social media is going to be a part of that, and building a brand is going to be a part of that. And so that's the plan as of today. But LinkedIn, you want to dive into LinkedIn?
I do want you to dive into LinkedIn because I think you've done a great job with it. For some reason, when yours pop up, I'm like, I pay attention to it, even though I don't know anything about real estate. But there's something there. But for myself, I'm like, LinkedIn is the more serious, I guess, which is a good thing. I was talking about this with Chris and my wife. I'm like, you know what? That it is a good thing, but it can come across as boring, I guess is the best way to put it. What is your thought about LinkedIn?
So LinkedIn for me was kind of a natural next step from Twitter, because Twitter is just like, it was originally 180 characters and they allowed it to go a little bit further. And I had done LinkedIn as like a new listing, put it up here on LinkedIn, just closed. It was just like generic real estate stuff. I wasn't really writing or contributing to it. When the Twitter thing started picking up, I thought about it, and maybe I saw a video and someone's like, LinkedIn, maybe it's Gary Vee. He's like, LinkedIn is undervalued attention. And I was thinking about it. I'm like, where is my target audience? Where are the apartment owners, the investors that I want to influence, or at least have a relationship with, where they see the value that I'm providing and be there more often? And I started shifting my focus towards LinkedIn. So I started kind of thinking about how I wrote on Twitter and what had garnered some attention there, and started putting that attention into LinkedIn. And I think LinkedIn was, and kind of still has, this moniker of being somewhat boring and, white collar, buttoned up kind of thing. And I brought a little bit of that flair for Twitter, which can be this kind of Wild West, and this authenticity that I was experiencing on that platform, and brought it over to LinkedIn. And it seemed to resonate a lot with the audience on LinkedIn. And so I just was getting this feedback of like, okay, people like that kind of stuff. Let me try this one. Like, it was a lot of testing to see what fit. And I really didn't even have like a content strategy or a calendar, or I would feel something and then I would write it, and I would feel it, or I'd notice something interesting and then I'd post it out there. And it was just kind of this in the moment figuring it out, and people started resonating with it. And I think I've been able to kind of build the reputation on LinkedIn of, someone who knows what they're talking about, which has been great. And I've connected with so many people, Steve, that I never thought I'd be able to connect with.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. And business from it. And so many people, oh man, I love your LinkedIn. Like, I'm talking to an owner on the phone. He's like, oh, by the way, I like your LinkedIn stuff.
You don't hear that every day. I love your LinkedIn.
Yeah, I know, exactly, right?
That's when you've made it. What's your LinkedIn? It's like success.
Yeah, and right, I'm not, and I have to remember too, because like, I'm a real estate broker, agent. I'm not on LinkedIn to try to sell a course or sell a product, or I'm trying to sell more real estate. And so I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't feel like it was contributing to the growth of my real estate business. And I was experiencing that, and I was getting good feedback. And I didn't mention this earlier, but I actually, one of the first, maybe 2-3 years ago, I actually earned a listing from someone who reached out to me on Twitter. Wow. Like, I earned 2 listings and I made over 6 figures from Twitter. And that to me was like, holy shit. Like, sorry for but like,
that's okay, you can cuss. We're adults now.
Holy shit. Like, this is real. Like, this can produce business. And so there, again, another moment where I was like, all right, like, let's put some effort into this. So I've kind of, I'm still figuring it out. I'm still trying to understand it. There's so much I'm learning and trying to resonate, and like, is it authentically me, or am I just trying to get whatever? Like, you always think about that stuff, but I've definitely seen the value in being a creator and being someone who provides value to other people. And I enjoy consuming that kind of content. That's my preferred content that I consume, and learning. And actually, speaking of leadership, like, I didn't realize this was me, and early on, I definitely was not like this. I love teaching. I love sharing what I've learned in my wisdom with other people. And the feedback that I get from other, even younger agents or other people in the business, like, man, like, that really struck a chord with me. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Or, dude, like, you're motivating me to work harder. Like, keep doing what you're doing. That is a side of me I didn't know that I enjoyed, and I really do love like teaching and sharing with people. So that's been another side benefit of experiencing the social media stuff.
Yeah, and that's the perfect segue, because I was going to say that's the last piece, because I noticed within some of the videos, like you're doing presentations, and I'm like, oh, okay, motivational speaker. Like there's that element of it, and within your videos, it's educating, and I love that. It's like I said, for someone who doesn't know this sphere, it's just not my lane. I could watch those videos and go, oh, okay, that makes sense to me. So the fact that you have now put into this education piece of what you do, I think that's going to open up so many more doors as long as you want it. You know what I'm saying?
Totally. And speaking of teaching, one of the experiences I got from being on the social stuff was I got to speak at a class at your alma mater, USC.
Nice.
And that was I was so nervous. I was like, I practiced, I made 17 slide decks, and I was speaking to 20-year-olds in class, but I was so nervous. And I remember thinking like, holy shit, like if I've never spoken in front of 20 people in my life. What's going to happen? Are they going to think I'm dumb? Like all of those thoughts started coming in my head, and I went and did that, and I loved it. And I was like invigorated, and I knew what I was talking about. I was confident, right? I realized that anxiety is just a lack of preparation and knowing what you're going to be talking about. Because if I can tell you everything you need to know about Los Angeles real estate, and like, I don't care if it's 1 million people or one person, like I know my stuff. And so I'm confident in being able to have that conversation. And that experience allowed me and made me realize like I love teaching and sharing and speaking in front of crowds, especially when it's something that I care about and something that I'm very passionate about. So I think moving forward in the future, right, I would love to do more speaking and teaching kids and students and people interested in real estate. Like it really does bring a lot of enjoyment to me. So that teaching, that leadership has kind of unlocked for me as well.
Yeah, I love that you've talked about the things that were hard, a lot of the fears that took place, a lot of the grind that you had to go through, the early days and everything, but also the successes of what you've been able to, kind of put into your world based on the hard work that you did. So as you've gone along this journey, and again, you're just 28, there's so much ahead of you, right? Who are some people along the way that you could really say like, wow, that really made a difference in my life and really has made me who I am?
Yeah. I mean, gosh, so many people.
Yeah.
And it makes you realize like people are so important. Friendships, family, support, and I want to be that to other people, because without that I would not be where I am today. But my parents, obviously, like I love them so much, and I could not be where I am here today without them. And even today when I'm having a tough day, like I call my mom, I'm like, Mom, today was rough. And she's like, it's okay. Like, hey, what could you have done differently? Like she's consoling me and helping me through that stuff. And obviously like my mentors, like you, Steve Edwards, people from Sacramento who encouraged me to go and try new things, encouraged me to explore different avenues, encouraged me to try to be more myself and figure out what I liked and what I didn't. And I think I'm very grateful and too many to name who've influenced me to where I am today and to continue on the journey of what I'm trying to do. And I think, they always say like, you want to give back. It doesn't feel like I'm at a level where, I've earned as much as I want to be able to give back, but I still feel that even if someone's starting out, like I've been in this for 6.5, 7 years, like someone who's just starting out, I know a lot that I can share with them, and I feel that drive to want to give back and help people out from that experience, because so many people like yourself, family, everyone, like I could not have done it without you guys.
Yeah, love it. And that moves into tips too. Like you said, I often hear, and I think it's so true, is that when you're coming into an industry, do not be afraid to find someone like yourself to latch onto. Like, you don't have to be annoying or anything, but that you can bounce questions off of, because I think we would all agree as entrepreneurs, we thrive off of that because then we see something different that doesn't happen with the majority that maybe are afraid to ask those questions.
Steve, that is so true because I find myself even today, like I'll ask anyone a question, right? I've with the cold calls, I'm not afraid to call. If you have Elon Musk's phone number, I will call Elon Musk and ask him about, how can I build a better real estate company? Like, I don't have that fear anymore.
Yeah.
But I also, I love getting different people's opinions and different people's feedback and trying to see like, okay, this, Huda Beauty sold her company for $600 million. Like, how did she think about building this aspect, and how can I take that into my business? Or any of my mentors, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, whatever it is, even the guy who runs the, restaurant that I like how does he do customer service?
Right.
So I'm constantly trying to see different people who've built things that I admire and that I enjoy, and what I can take from that experience and then bring that into what I do in my day-to-day as well. So I think you can have mentors, physical mentors, and people that you speak to directly, but you can also find mentorship from someone who never even knows that you're there or is not even alive anymore, and take those lessons and try to take that mentorship and put it into your life.
Well, and that's the beauty of, we talk about the internet and social media and how there's so much negative to it. I try to look at it from the positive side, like you have access to everything. Yeah, still read books, don't get me wrong, but there's so much out there as a DJ, as a podcaster, as a teacher. I mean, I can tell you the numerous amounts of videos and books I was able to read that really helped me grow. And you've always got to be willing to learn. You can never get to a point where you say, I've got it all figured out, because that will never happen.
Yeah. There's I don't know. Have you seen this meme, the midwit meme? Are you familiar with that?
No.
Okay, so it's basically like I think it's either like a bar chart or 3 pictures, and the first image is this guy who's like supposed to be like the shepherd, or like the simple guy, simple guy. In the middle is the midwit, and then on the right side is like the sage, and in the midwit in the middle is, so like, for example, the farmer, he's like, how do you dig? I'm gonna use real estate for example, but like, how do you find listings? Make cold calls, right? The middle guy's like, you got to do this event, this CRM, he's like 75 different things, and then the sage is like, make cold calls. And it's basically just like this. It's sometimes, the simple thing, right? And not trying to overcomplicate things and think everything's 75 different ways.
Right.
I think it's something that I've learned from experience too, and trying to again simplify, but also be in a position where you're just open and you're always wanting to figure out, like Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett are some of my heroes. Like Charlie Munger's, he even said, the older you get, the more I realize I don't know. And so that to me, like if that guy is where he was and has that admiration for Berkshire Hathaway and all that stuff, like I think that's a pretty good way to live life. And I choose to continue to learn for the rest of my life.
Yeah, that's it never stops, and that it's great to hear from you. You're 28, I'm 55, but it's not different. It's not any different, And so, what is the big picture for you? I imagine maybe you're a goal setter of some sort. Some people do it differently and stuff, but as you see your journey, do you see something? You talked about possibly motivational speaking. You're going to bring the social media back, but looking ahead, what do you see for yourself and what you're doing?
It's a great question. Every day it seems like I have a path that I'm headed down, and I'm headed towards that goal, which is being the best real estate agent and broker that I could be. And I've also been able to look back and realize, like, every time I thought professional athlete, YouTuber, CrossFitter, whatever it was, like things shifted and changes. So I'm not like set necessarily on whatever happens and I'll take it as it is, but whatever I pursue, whatever I continue to do, whether that's through the brokerage arm or whether that's through teaching or speaking or social or whatever it is, right, just have that passion, have that desire, have that ability to be able to share what you've learned and what you've known with other people. And I think if I can stay true to my values and what I believe, whatever happens in the future, like I'll be happy that I did it the way that I did it, and I followed my path.
You can't explain it. That is like in the perfect nutshell, Taylor. Well done, well done. So to finish out this conversation, we're going to finish out with a memory. As we said in the very beginning, our connection is that you went to the same school as my oldest son Toph. You eventually came over to St. Michael's. We had the opportunity. You were on a lot of my baseball teams. In fact, every baseball team that I had. I don't think you were never not on my team. But my best memory, and you know it well, was 2010 PAL championship against St. Ignatius. And it really, truly, to this day, is my favorite all-time sports moment. And you could put it up there with the big professional ones, too. There was so much magic behind it. And I'll let you kind of take it, and then I'll fill in the gaps if I need to.
Yeah, no, you're gonna be able to. I was so in the moment, but you saw. I mean, I was smiling ear to ear because thinking back on that moment, it was just like so much. It's like, oh, it's just this feeling goes through my body when I think about that moment. But I remember, okay, so again, fill in the gaps if I miss it. But 8th grade, St. Michael's, we PAL basketball. So we played we were a good team. We weren't the best team, but we were good. But we were gritty, and we played like a team. And we were winning some games, losing some games, doing really well, had some close battles. And for whatever reason, we had this hot streak at the end, and we were able to make it to the championship game. And the championship game was against this team called St. Ignatius. And St. Ignatius had I don't know if they had lost the game all season. Everyone.
No, I don't think they did.
They did. Yeah, right. And
yeah.
There's a reason why that was the case, because they had some players who were 6'6", 6'7", 6'4", like studs, just absolute studs, who ended up going and playing college basketball, by the way. And so it was us, the Rudy story, remember the Titans versus this David versus Goliath kind of situation. And I remember going into that game, and I don't know if you remember this, but this is still in my brain. The first play of that game, we got the tip, I think.
You did.
We were dribbling down, and Brady, who was the center, was I don't know, he must have tipped it to the wrong team. He was a foot taller than whoever was jumping for us. And
I think it was Jeff Luoma who probably.
Yeah, was it Jeff?
Yeah.
I think it was Jeff, right?
Yeah.
And he did a great job, by the way. But it came to us, so we're running down. I think Toph has the ball. I come out on the wing, and for whatever reason, Toph just passed me the ball. And all I remember is catching and just Hail Mary throwing it up from 3, oh my gosh, because Brady Anderson was, again, 6'7", was coming out and literally was about to swat me. I just, as high of an arc possibly as I possibly could, and I banked a 3 in, and everyone just goes, wow. This just cheers from the crowd, these underdogs, the first 3-pointer, oh my, we could we could do this. It was just that memory is incredible.
Bring that story up, that's actually where we start. We start with the Taylor Avakian 3 to start the game. Now, to set it up for you, and I'm going to let Taylor continue, is that, like you said, we were kind of a mid-team, right below the cusp of probably the better teams that were in the league at that time. Our first big win was against Holy Spirit, and Holy Spirit had beaten us the previous 2 times in very close games. So we got over the hump. In the semifinals, though, which was even better, St. John the Evangelist, who was another powerhouse with Mr. Kevin Rogers, we decimated them. And to this day, he reminds me that we should not have won that game. And I love it. Even when he says that, I'm like, well, first of all, you're totally wrong. We killed you guys in that game. And it was interesting because there was a quote from Harold Presley, whose son played on the team, that there was no chance that St. Michael's could beat SJE. Well, we ended up being by 5, but they hit a 3 from half court at the end of the game. So the game was already in check. when we get to that final against St. Ignatius, the three guys that Taylor has mentioned, he already mentioned Brady Anderson. He went to play JC ball. Lake Lutz was the other one who went to the Air Force Academy. And the most successful player actually out of the group was Nick Hilton, who is now coaching Division I college basketball. So the thing about going into that game, if you remember, Taylor, I brought in motivational speakers, and the one we brought in was Zach Nathanson and Abe Leibovitz, who had played on the Rio Americano High School team, which was a team that was very similar to ours. They didn't have a lot of height, but they went deep because of those two individuals. They were simply very gritty. And if you remember, they dressed up and actually sat on the bench with us. So we were pulling at all stops to get you guys motivated, and that was not a problem. And the other piece that I have to share is that we put a defense in that would contain Lake Lutz and Brady Anderson. And I think we did a very good job. The only problem was we forgot about Nick Hilton. And he still makes me know that today. He's like, how can you forget me? Like, and the funny thing is out of the point total, I think they scored all the points except two. There was some literally ended up getting a layup middle of the game.
Yeah, literally those three guys scored every point but two, and we were just like, what's going on?
And Taylor, the crowd, that was the other piece of it, is St. Michael's. You have to remember, we were not a powerhouse. This was not supposed to happen. This was probably our first great team that we had in school history. And so we basically had the stands packed. And I remember the SI parents looking around like, what the heck is going on? So I know you're probably wondering, did we end up winning this game? Taylor, I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, so incredible. We played our hearts out. We did. Just back and forth. Unfortunately, the story does not end in a victory. But I think after us coming together, and again, there was emotions, we were tearful, whatever.
I'm crying right now.
but like, it was almost a victory, and just coming together as a community, coming together of what was possible for this school that just no one thought had a chance, and these kids who believed that they could do it. And some of my best friends are genuinely from St. Michael's and from that community, and we became friends with Nick, Brady, and Lake as well from the other team also. So it was a good story on that end. But what I remember is just that feeling of like everyone has your back, everyone is there to support you, and like no matter if you win or lose, just getting in that arena and being willing to fight for what we wanted to earn, that really, I think, is the story that comes out of that moment.
It was incredible.
So special.
And we should mention the last piece, which I think was the best piece. And again, no one could understand what was going on, but we had a family, the Pazinski family, who basically the mom whispers in my ear, hey, we want to do something special for the kids. And I'm like, okay, and I'm taking in all the emotions, and she's all, we want to take everybody to Disneyland. And I'm like, I had to do one of these. Like, whoa, what? Like, are you serious? She said, oh, no, we want to. And when I got to make that announcement to you guys, we all go insane, and we indeed got to go to Disneyland. And even better, Mr. Brzezinski was handing out spending money to you boys every day that we were there. I think we were there for a couple days.
Yeah.
That was great. And again, that collectively, to me, nothing beats that moment.
Yeah, it was genuinely special, and I will forever remember that moment. So thank you again for bringing that up, because that was so amazing.
Yeah, I have the picture of the boys. You guys, the boys, right on.
Is our banner still up there?
The banner's still up. Yep, the banner's still up. And by the way, St. Michael's has done a good job. A lot of banners have been added, but we're one of those originals. But that picture, if you remember, we had Mr. Friend, who was a photographer, take the photo, and it's right there as I walk in from the garage to the house every day, and I just smile. So it's good stuff. But Taylor, I just want to say congratulations. I'm so proud of you, and it's so good to see what you are doing and how you've just grown into this great young man. I mean, it's incredible for me, and this is the joy of being this old and seeing someone like yourself like doing what you're doing. Like, okay, you know what? This is what life is all about.
Steve, thank you so much for having me, and this has been an incredible experience, journey down memory lane, and I want to thank you very much for those formative years, in my previous earlier life, because I could not have been here without you. So I want to thank you.
Much appreciation. He is Taylor Avakian. We're going to take a quick little break. I mean, it'll be real quick. I'm going to come back with a final word and get you set up for our next episode here on Experience the Buzz. Again, we'll have all the information on Taylor Avakian that you'll be able to see it. And I am really hoping, in fact, I know that the material that was inside of this podcast, whether you see it on the audio side or the video side, is going to be helpful for every entrepreneur out there. My name is Steve Buzzard. We'll be back right after this.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss an episode of Experience the Buzz by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. It means everything. Now, back to the show.
I don't know. What do you think? Wasn't that great? Oh my goodness, so good. And man, another great episode in the books, and I'm very thankful to Taylor to give me the time, to actually give you the time to talk about his story. I hope really it truly was beneficial to you. I know it was for me, learning something brand new, to see how young people are thinking. And it's good to know, because here's my biggest takeaway: hard work, right? This didn't happen without hard work, and that's exactly what Taylor did, and he is now reaping the benefits of that. And as he explained, not much has changed. Maybe a shave of an hour or two off his day, but the grind is definitely there. I think once it's in your DNA, it definitely does not go away. So this will lead us into another episode, and again, I want to thank each and every one of you for being a part of the ETB community. I love doing this podcast. A big thank you to my producer, Michael Kenobi, who puts it all together. And of course, we would love for you to subscribe. It's very easy on both the audio and video end. All that does there is it's going to help us with our algorithms. You can leave a review if you want. Happy to see you do that. Of course, say nice things, right? And mean things, as Dave Ramsey says, keep it to yourself. And then it also alerts you to brand new material that is coming your way. Again, we try to release these episodes on a bi-weekly basis. But if we get a lot in the can, it could be weekly. Who knows? So let me get it out, because I still haven't memorized it to this day. That's all I got for now. Talk to you next time. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you for joining Steve this week on Experience the Buzz. Steve would love to hear from you. Leave a review or contact Steve directly with any questions at scbuzzard@gmail.com. To see the other adventures of Steve Buzzard, be sure to visit buzzardball.com.